Hey everyone, welcome back to Inland Empire Coaches Talk. Today I have the defensive coordinator for Norte Vista High School. Andy, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So tell the folks at home your journey. We were talking offline a little bit that you've been coaching for 42 years, 10 years at NoVi. Kind of talk to us about your journey to come to Norte Vista.
You know, my journey is a long journey. Mm-hmm. When you say 42 years seems like a long time. I have to go back to 1959 to the first football game I ever went to. Riverside Poly versus Redlands. I was 4 years old. My sister took me. And after that, I don't think I missed a Poly football game until 1966 when North opened up. Then I played at North, and I was part of the two first championships, Ivy League championships that they, Then right off the bat, I started coaching. I started coaching at North, and originally I was supposed to be a JV coach. And right in the middle of summertime, the head coach asked me, hey, since he was my linebacker coach, he says, hey, why don't you become a linebacker coach on the varsity? So that first year of coaching, I went to the CIF finals. And we lost to Temple City. And one thing I'll never forget was Coach Rich Dollar came up to me, and we were sitting at Mount Sac College, and he said, hey, Coach, just think about it. I've been waiting 30 years for this moment, and your first year coaching, you're in the finals. Yeah. So I coached at North for 1 year. Then I joined the Marine Corps. Then I went to coach at Corona, Notre Dame. Then I went back to North for 5 or 6 years. And then coached at Montclair. Then in 1989, I started coaching at Centennial High School. I was the first defensive coordinator there. Stood there for 3 years. Then for 1 year, I went to Ramona High School with John Tyree. And that was probably my most satisfaction coaching job in the sense because they were 0-17 going into the season. We ended up being 4-0 at one point. Then we played Mater Dei. And Mater Dei was national champions the year before. While in the fourth quarter, we were 7-7. We ended up losing 21-7. And then I went back to Centennial the following year because I had some connections there. My son was playing there, and it was one of those deals I was offered the defense coordinator job again. And from there, I went to Don Lugo, A.B. Miller, back to Ramona, Corona High School with John Brandon. Then I went to Norte Vista in 2009. I stayed there until 2014. One of my young mentors, one young kid that I thought he was a great football coach. He offered me a job at Orange High School. And at the time I was working in Corona. And that was a long ways to go to Orange, back to Riverside. That didn't last very long. So then plus my health was going towards, I could feel something was wrong. And so I basically told him, hey, I can't do it. So then in 2016, I went to Hillcrest with John Brandon again. I coached there 2 years. One thing I want to mention is in 2016, I got a heart attack in the middle of a game. It was a playoff game against Big Bear. And one of the coaches, Matt Mantello, basically, he saw something was wrong with me. I didn't even know something was wrong with me, but he saw it, and he basically saved my life. Then 2018, I went back to Norte Vista, and last year, my path to Norte Vista.
I always love talking to people about their paths because there's no one path.
Yes.
But I love the fact that no matter which football coach you talk to or baseball coach, you're talking about community. And in the Inland Empire, especially, we all kind of just stay in this community and we hold each other. It's so much about the family draw. You remember going to Poly versus Redlands too. I mean, Redlands has 133 years now of tradition of the long blue.
The blue line,
and that's the thing that when I moved out here from the Midwest, the Midwest has so much of that culture. And when I first moved out to the West Coast, I'm like, all right, we don't have that culture.
The Norco culture.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, we don't have that culture the same way because there's Disneyland, there's the beach, there's the mountains, there's everything in California, which is great, but you miss that down-home, small-town, Americana feel.
Yes.
Where the town shuts down or the community shuts down and supports the local football game.
Yes.
So that's one of the things I've always appreciated about the Inland Empire, specifically, living in Redlands, living in Riverside, those have always been hand in hand where I love that culture. But I also love hearing the coaching staffs talk about, we know this and they know. And everyone is a brotherhood.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of people just see the Friday night or the Saturday or the Sunday, that bombastic attack that all competitors have towards one another, like you cannot be happy with the person on the other sideline for one day a year. But 364 days, you're best friends.
Yes.
So that's one of the things I always love hearing in the ventures and the way that people kind of come around to their final resting place when it comes to coaching.
Yes. Like by myself, I knew Coach Batdorf in 1989.
Mm-hmm.
He was our freshman coach at Centennial. And in fact, he coached my both sons, my two youngest sons. And my family don't consider Coach Batdorf a friend. They consider him family. I mean, that's how much they have respect and love for him because he's just an amazing human being.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, I love Ken just for the fact that he has given so much continuity to NoVi.
Yes.
And we talk about coaches that bounce around, and there's some brilliant coaches in the Inland Empire. Talking to Jeff a few weeks ago and his journey to get him now closer to home at Beaumont. But the way that certain coaches just plant and stay and give stability to a program is iconic and becomes legendary in most towns.
You know, like Coach Batdorf has been offered jobs. I can't tell you, in the last 10 years, I mean, I'm not going to mention schools, but he's been offered a lot of jobs that went on to some of everybody else. And he said, nah, Novi's my home. Yep. I mean, his loyalty to the kids and the community of Norte Vista is second to none. Mm-hmm. I mean, his passion for the kids and the community is really like a heartfelt. Mm-hmm. And he felt like they were family. It's funny, a few years ago, he retired a jersey that he coached 5 brothers all wear the same jersey. And to me, that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. So you've talked about, obviously, Ken being, but talk about some of the other pillars of the game that have kind of molded your coaching style. How would you define your coaching style? You
know, I'm going to say 3 football coaches that basically identify who I am as a football coach and as a person. The first one's Larry Hisbeck. Mm-hmm. He was my head football coach at North. Then I went to 5 different high schools they coached with him. Coach Hisbeck was the type of guy who was very structured. He liked to build. You know, most of the programs he used to go to were 0-10, 1-9 the year before. Usually we won 6 games the very first year. I mean, he was a builder. And he was also, I think one of the strengths that I got from him was being unorthodox, not doing what everybody else does. Mm-hmm. You know, he was different. And, you know, like on defensive-wise, he always told me, hey, come up with 3 or 4 different game plans. That was before people ran multiple defenses. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was back in the 80s, back in the 70s. He was, that structure. Another coach is John Tyree at Ramona. One thing about Coach Tyree, he's probably more known for his being an offensive wizard. Mm-hmm. When I say offense, he knows the option. I mean, he ran every type of option you could think of. Yep. Oklahoma, he's won 2 CIF championships. He won the state championship in Oklahoma. He knows more people than most people. I mean, I'm talking about there's some Sundays that we were working together, and he'd be on the phone calling Alabama, calling Gene Starlin. He'd be calling Barry Switzer. He'd be calling all these coaches, and it was like, I'm amazed that he's talking to these people like they're friends. But one thing he did for me was up to that point in 1992, I believe, I was so structured with Hisbeck, doing everything what Hisbeck did, being unorthodox. You know, I only knew one way of coaching. Well, basically, Tyree basically says, hey, you know what? I want to run a 4-3 cover 2. But I want you to go to Texas, spend some time in Texas, and he paid for my way down there. I stayed at a coach's house. Then I visit Pilgrim High School. I visit Minden Lee High School. I visit a lot of the powerhouse. And I stayed there, and basically I walked into the coach's office, and they had a depth chart for 8th graders, and they had 3 different walls of just depth charts of every kid. They knew what kid was going to be coming up, 5 years from now, which was pretty amazing. And but John was one of those guys that basically said, hey, you know what, if I want you to learn something, go into it. Another head football coach I coached with him for 2 years is Steve Silverman. He was the head coach at Centennial. What he taught me was, Hisbeck had an amazing work ethic. We had, I'm talking about Saturdays, 12 hours, Sunday, 12. Silverman was probably one of the hardest working coaches, but that had a timeline for everything. He was also very structured. And he was one of the guys who also taught me to go to go to more coaching clinics. Also go to USC, go UCLA, go San Diego State. I mean, he was one who basically said, hey, you know what, Andy, I know defense a lot, but, there's other things in defense besides what you learned from Larry. And I take great pride in knowing that we won the first league championship at Centennial. Mm-hmm. And so Steve had a lot of influence on me in a lot of ways. He was the most computered person I ever met. Yeah, I mean, we used to show up at 1 o'clock about 1 o'clock on Sunday, and we'd be there till 2 o'clock Monday morning. I mean, just filling in the old days before the huddle. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was those three guys are probably the most influential coaches.
I love it. I love how you talk about the different styles, because I think holistic continuing education is important no matter what walk of life. And that's what a lot of the show is about. Yes, we talk sports, but we also just talk about life and culture. And I think so many people now are getting into the specialization, whether you're talking about comp, volleyball, travel, baseball, and all the showcases. Like, you look at De La Salle, and you have two-way players. Right. You have multi-sport athletes. Versus now no, I want to be a left-handed specialist in baseball, and I'm 8. Wait, what? Like, go throw a football, go play hockey, go play soccer.
Wrestle, yeah.
And learn from multiple people. Yes. I love that in your journey you're showing all the different sides to become a more holistic, not only coach, but educator, mentor, and father, which I think is vitally important to our community and needs to be heard right now.
Yes.
So your style obviously has evolved over the years.
Yes, it's changed tremendously.
What would you say is your next evolution as a coach that you would like to see?
I am, now at my age, mm-hmm. Being 65, I don't go to coaches' clinics like I used to. I mean, I still go on Zoom. I mean, this past 5 months, I've gone to probably 20 coaches Zooms from all over the nation. Like there'll be an Arizona State coach talking, mm-hmm. or also the Texas minority coaches talking. I mean, they bring coaches from Baylor, coaches from all across the country, and it was I learned a lot. In fact, last year when we beat Hillcrest in the fourth quarter, I went to a clinic in Arizona, and it was And one guy was sitting on how coaches gather at clinics. Sometimes they'd be at a table, and some guys were drawing circles, and I sat down beside him, and he was talking about some certain defense. Well, watching him for 5 minutes in the fourth quarter against Hillcrest, we put that in after I went to that clinic, and I didn't use it until that moment. And mm-hmm. by me being at that clinic helped us win our league championship last year. So, you'll learn a lot by going out places.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Obviously, we have our masks, trying to be socially distanced. How has it affected you guys at Norte Vista when March 13th hit?
It hits like a sledgehammer. Mm-hmm. Since I'm retired from my regular job, I'm there every day. Mm-hmm. I mean, since November. And when March 13th happened, and they came in and said, hey, we cannot go in. I mean, we had all these plans. I mean, we were probably going to have one of our strongest teams in the history of Norte Vista. We're talking about 20 kids over 300 pounds. I mean, this is the type of team that we were kind of waiting for. We were excited about. Then, like Coach Braddock said, let's wait. Maybe it's going to be 3 weeks and we come back. Well, that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. We started having Zoom meetings. I started having Zoom meetings 4 days a week, 5 days a week. The kids send me workouts. And for about 3 months, we kept on saying, when are we coming back? When are we coming back? And it became where, I usually do a lot of my work once the season's over. Like, I already have game plans for our first 10 games. I mean, I basically I spend 2 weeks per team, watch everything I can find. Then I make a file on them. Then I put my own personal game plan where I think what they're going to do next year. Then I might put little touches in it. Well, so I didn't have to do that during this stuff because I already did all the the legwork in January, February, beginning of March. I did all that work already. So now it's time just to communicate with the kids. Then in June, I caught the coronavirus. I caught it, and 4 members of my family caught it. And to me, that was one of the eye-opening. Having a heart attack, you can go, that's going to open your eyes a little bit. Mm-hmm. Well, having the coronavirus opened my eyes even more because I kept on reading all these tweets about, hey, it's a hoax, it's that, it's not that serious. When I saw what it did to myself and to my family, and my daughter was in the hospital. She was probably 1 hour away from being in a ventilator. And that shook me to the core. And sometimes I want to go out on the mountain and say, hey, guys, this is serious. Wear a mask, stay away from people, do the right thing, make the right choices, make the right decisions, because you might not catch it. You might be under 40 years old. You might not catch it. It might not affect you. But when you go home to mom and dad, or you go home to uncle and grandma and grandpa, they might not make it. And that's what's really been, for me, it's been.
Yeah, and I have a family member who has a daughter who has a single left ventricle. I have my sisters and my brother. Like, the way that our family is, I'm very much aware. I also have a lot of family that works at Loma Linda.
Right.
So I get to see it more firsthand. But, like, you've seen my tweets where I'm like, just mask up. It's not hard.
Yes.
It's like, even if it's something of washing your hands. I had Dr. Ernie Medina from Loma Linda on the program a few weeks ago, and he was saying it's not a matter of if I get coronavirus, but when I get it.
Yes.
He goes, it's no different than any other virus. Take any flu season. He goes, everyone's going to get it. The problem is we have something that you don't have antibodies for, and we're still learning how to attack it. He goes, 10, 15 years from now, it could just be another flu because we have a vaccine. But he goes, because of the evolution of it, though, we just don't know how to attack it yet.
Yes.
He goes, you're going to get it. The question is when. So when people are, it doesn't affect me. Okay. I went and got tested because I had to because of my family, right. And I have the antibodies, which means I had it. Most likely, knowing back to the only time I can remember really getting sick was probably in November, before we ever started down this journey.
Yes.
But it's amazing to me how many people are just like, oh, well, no, I don't want to wear a mask. I'm like, okay, like, it's literally, I'll give you one for free. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, my wife had a kidney removed in October. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I found out about it the day we played Moreno Valley. And I probably coached my best game of the year that day because I was such in a twilight zone. We find your wife has cancer in her kidney and they're going to have to remove it. Mm-hmm. And that was the biggest fear because I know she had underlying conditions. She had a kidney removed. She had a heart attack in 15. Mm-hmm. I know I had a heart attack, and my son has a brain tumor. And I said, "Oh man, we got underlying conditions. We cannot afford it." We did everything right. Mm-hmm. I mean, people say, "Why did you catch it if you did everything right?" Well, hey, we were masks. My wife and I, we didn't go shopping for 3 months. Mm-hmm. We were basically prisoners in our house. My daughter and my son basically were the ones who did our grocery shopping, did mm-hmm. our chores, but yet somehow, some way, we got it. Mm-hmm. And it's, and it's, I'm telling people, man, it's now, let me see, it's 67 days since I caught it, and I still feel some certain effects from it, mm-hmm. And I see my wife has certain effects. My daughter still has trouble breathing, so please wear a mask. If you love yourself and you love your family, wear a mask because you might not catch it. You might not catch it bad, mm-hmm. but somebody else might.
So trying to pivot this back to sports is
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't be sorry at all.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I could preach from a mountain. I wish I could be like a church person and hand out Bible tracts.
And I think also a lot of people don't, like, you heard me on the phone before we started this, like, certain interventions that are coming out, and that's one thing that I've loved about how sports has pivoted.
Yes.
In all this, we can go on the pedestal of social justice and politics and go for 20 hours on either side of the aisle. I don't care on that side. I'm talking about just how the sports community has come together to be like, no, this is a problem.
Yes.
We're going to wear a mask. We're going to, whether you create a bubble like the NBA did and the NHL did, whether you're going to have constant testing like the NFL and Major League Baseball, Bauer's gone and creating face shields, Under Armour, everyone basically now has their mask version. And the way that they've pivoted, Tesla creating ventilators, same thing with Daktronics has been working on theirs as well. It's like, everyone's coming together in sports. And I think that's the main thing. that it is a microcosm of a football locker room is how our community should be.
Yes.
Where it doesn't matter the name on the back, it matters the name on the front. It doesn't matter if you're left-handed, right-handed, 5'2", 6'2", 180 pounds, 380 pounds, black, white, purple, or
yes.
You are a team, and you come together in that brotherhood, in that sisterhood, to create a culture that has a singular goal. That singular goal is to win.
Yes.
If we started to embrace more people and communities in that locker room setting, I think we would be in a happier place.
Yes.
Instead of dividing and trying to fight constantly.
Yes. At Norte Vista, Batdorf has developed cultures. I can, I feel giddily when I talk about Coach Batdorf because bottom line is I've never met a coach that loves his players as much as he does. Mm-hmm. I mean, he goes outside the box, getting stuff like our spirit practice problem. It's not Under Armour, it's not Nike, but the kids appreciate getting something very cheaply. I mean, like we get 4 T-shirts, a pair of shorts. The kids get free shoes from one of our alumni. Mm-hmm. We get people that donate stuff all the time to us because Batdorf is out there and his hands out there, man. He's knocking on doors. And he's hey, and they all understand what Norte Vista is all about, our community. Cool.
I mean, one of the things I've always said, as I can't speak for all reps because everyone has their bag, but I've always looked at servant leadership, and that was my example going through my master's. Well, I don't sell sports. I solve problems. If I solve problems, whether it's coronavirus, being a mask, having, like I was talking about earlier, the face shields that are now being designed for desks for when we go back to school, all these little things solve problems. Right now, all my ADs aren't worried about uniforms. They're not worried about spirit packs. Yeah. They're worried about, okay, how am I going to get sports officials, transportation, and everyone practicing on the same field at the same time? So what solutions can I give to that? You're talking about, for a lot of coaches, okay, they have time for continuing education, giving them continuing education, giving them free resources. But for a lot of people, it's so odd. It's like, so what do you want to sell me? Nothing, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to help, because if I help you, then when you need that jersey, when you need then you're like, hey, Mike, help me. Yeah, because that's how it should be. That's a community. Not trying to sell and add anything additional right now. Because we don't need additional. We need school spirit, we need culture, and we need people to know that we're in each other's corner.
Yes. One thing about Norte Vista is that coaching at Norte Vista is a little bit different than coaching at other schools in their city. I mean, we don't hear it in the stands. Hey, coach, like we run power. I mean, we might run, like against Ramona High School, we ran 25 plays or 24 plays in one drive, 14-minute long. We just ran one play. We ran probably a couple other plays, but it was basically run power. Mm-hmm. Not one time did we hear, anybody in the stands, hey, coach, change your offense. Our parents are pretty supportive of our kids. Mm-hmm. And like at Norte Vista, our kids, we have a great freshman program. Coach Ron Main, Coach Daniel Garza, they do a great job. When our kids come to Norte Vista, we might have 3 kids that ever played football before. Mm-hmm. And so they basically mold those kids a little bit and get us, by game 5, they're winning league championships. Basically by the time the season's over, they're winning league championships. But the first 5 games, they don't even know how to put the shoulder pads on.
And, that kind of takes away from one of the questions I usually ask coaches is, how do you deal with the transfer generation that we're in? And where kids are jumping from school to school, and they basically have a little slap on the hand. But comparatively to when I was in high school, it's very different.
Yes. And you just think about it, 60s, 70s, 80s. I've seen everything in the last 40 years, or last 50 years. Mm-hmm. We, at Norte Vista, a lot of times, we have not lost a player yet. Mm-hmm. We haven't not lost a player yet, but we have gained players from other schools in the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. The thing is, nowadays, parents are so, I want little Johnny to go to college. Mm-hmm. I want my son to get noticed. It's a different era now. Mm-hmm. But I also will say, the kids nowadays work harder than they ever did.
Oh, and the resources that they have nowadays comparatively to, and now it's kind of funny because everything old becomes new again. Now you have all these people going back to old hypertrophy workouts, the backpack workouts, the sandbags, because we don't have gyms open.
Back in when I played football, we did not have free weights. What we did have was coffee cans with cement in it. Mm-hmm. I mean, we did, curls with them, But I'm talking about 50 years ago almost. And so it's things have changed a lot, yeah. But today's kids, they work harder, but they ask more questions. Like if you do something, why are we doing it? Mm-hmm. It's not, before in the 70s and 80s, hey man, you say something, the kids did it right then and there.
It's like the light brigade. There's no reason to ask why.
Yeah, it's like at 2:30 in the afternoon back in the old days. Kids, I didn't see the kids until May, back in the 90s, back in the 80s. Once 2:30, hit, boom, the kids were gone in February, March, and April. We didn't get them until after 2:30 till May. Now we get them until 4:30, 5 o'clock, starting November. Usually 2 weeks after we lose a playoff game, we're already in the weight room getting ready and watching films and say, hey, let's do this, let's do that. Yeah, but times has changed, but yet loyalty has changed too.
Mm-hmm. But I still think it speaks to the culture of NoVi, where you have Centennial, who you've talked about, who is one of the giants on the West Coast.
Yes.
You have so many up-and-coming programs. Ken over at Ramona's building a great program there and trying to really build that program back up in Riverside. So there's temptation,
yes,
all over the place to lose kids to some of these programs, but still NoVi hasn't. They are still gaining, and that's for a school that doesn't have all the resources. BSN, one of our largest schools for high schools on the West Coast, is Mater Dei, and Mater Dei High School has every resource under the sun afforded them, and you might as well walk on a college campus. It's gorgeous, but. Same thing, Harvard, Westlake. Like, there's some gorgeous campuses out here.
San Margarita.
But every year, you guys and Ken and NoVi put out a product that people gravitate towards.
It's called family. Bottom line is, like last year, our defense gave up 70 points in 10 games, which to me is pretty amazing. 70 points is 7 points a game. Mm-hmm. We played two teams that went to the CIF finals. We lost to Temecula Valley, 16-12. They scored in the last minute of the game. We beat Ramona 43-7, and they scored a lot of points against everybody else. And our kids were a bunch of overachievers, and they played like a family. They refused to let each other down, and you could just feel it. Mm-hmm. This year I was really excited about the group that we had coming back, and they had the same work ethic and the same structure of family oriented, because they all know each other. A lot of these kids have known each other since they were 5 years old. They all went to the same elementary schools. But they are very loyal to Ken because Ken's loyal to them. Mm-hmm. I think when I talk about Norte Vista, we're more family. We care about our kids, not only about, like, example, first thing, every time we talk to the kids, do you need anything? Do you need groceries? That's the bottom line. A lot of them parents in our district, our school is not working. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of kids are shy. And so we have asked our kids, hey, if you know somebody that needs help, let us know. And then back door for doing it, we'll find a way to make sure it happens. Mm-hmm. And he will.
Absolutely. I think that just sums up this whole culture and what we should be striving towards. Because right now, all of us are in the same boat. Whether you've gotten coronavirus, you haven't. Whether you're a baseball person, a football person, a swimming coach, we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to do the same thing, and that's do what's right by the kids, right by the community, and get back on the field.
Yes.
And with that idea in mind, now we can, if we work towards that goal, we get that goal, great. Now we can take the next step, because now we are a family.
Yes.
We're the family under that rain cross in Riverside. Riverside becomes the IE. IE can become SoCal. It can build that grassroots movement, but it takes people understanding that we are all family.
Yes.
And so I think that is the greatest thing that you guys are perpetuating right now, and you're using football as the vehicle.
When I caught the coronavirus, I put it out there. Mm-hmm. It was pretty cool about the coaches community. I have coaches call for, like, Mush contacted me. Mm-hmm. We had Hillcrest, Travis Carter. I tell you, I love the staff at Hillcrest. Mm-hmm. Really good friends, good people. And they contacted me, daily. The offensive coordinator, Matt Metello, he contacted me. He said, I already saved your life once, man. I don't have to save your life again. But, again, I had a head coach from Orange. Mm-hmm. He called me probably every other week to make sure I was okay. And the offensive line coach from Orange. There was a lot of phone calls and a lot of, hey, Coach, are you okay? Are you, is there anything you need? Every person that contacted me, is there anything you need? And to me, that shows the community, the tight coaching community we have in Riverside.
Absolutely. So, last question. It's always the same for everybody. If you could give one message to the community, to your boosters, to your families, to your kids right now, during this time, moving forward, looking towards now January, now that the CIF has given us a date, what would that message be?
Be smart. Make decisions that's going to, that you're thinking about others. I think our problem right now, we got a lot of selfish people right now thinking about themselves and their rights and all that stuff. Think about others, not themselves. Wear a mask, do the right thing, and be smart.
I think that's all we need to say. Andy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It was an absolute pleasure. If anybody would like to be on the program, please email us. Past that, stay safe. God bless.
Thank you very much.